In the 1790s, the U.S. was about to adopt the metric system. But then pirates kept it from happening. The internet says it's true. Welcome back to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds made up but is really true. Part of the WCBE podcast experience, available on all podcast platforms, as well as the NPR app and website, and the WCB app, which is brand new and awesome. My name is Michael Kent. Hello. This is episode 239. Thank you so much for tuning in. And stay tuned, because later on we've got one of our favorite guests, Glen Tickle, joining us again. And this is another brand new episode, and I hope you appreciate that. And one of the ways that you can show that appreciation is by joining the Patreon. It's super easy to do. Go to patreon.com/Michael Kent. Sign up at any level. You can be a part of the club that helps support this show and keeps it going. When you join Patreon and become a Tizitor, that gets you 20% off of all the merch that's available on our website, access to extras like ad-free episodes, exclusive videos, show stickers, and more. Once again, patreon.com/Michael Kent. I appreciate that greatly. Also, keep leaving those reviews. I just checked, and yet again, we're at 4.9 on Apple Podcasts app. Let's get that up to a solid 5. So you go to the purple podcast app, that's Apple Podcasts, search for The Internet Says It's True, scroll down, you'll see an area that says tap to rate, give us 5 stars, and write a review, and that helps us more than you know. That's enough of the BS. Let's get into this week's story. Today's story is about pirates, but it's also about science and bureaucracy and just how close the United States came to joining the rest of the world in using meters and kilograms. This is a weird tale of swashbuckling sabotage with a twist that it doesn't involve sword fights or treasure maps, but instead a very specific copper cylinder. Before we get into that story, I have to tell you about something I find absolutely fascinating. If you drive parts of I-19 in Arizona or along I-394 near Minneapolis, you'll actually find highway signs marked in kilometers instead of miles. In the U.S., I-19 runs from Tucson to Nogales, right on the U.S.-Mexico border. When the road was constructed in the 1970s, there was a push for metrication in the U.S., and the Federal Highway Administration allowed metric signs as part of a broader metric test program. And the thinking was that metric signage would help facilitate trade with Mexico, which uses the metric system. While the metric push fizzled out nationally, the signs stayed. So to this day, you'll see distances in kilometers along I-19. And then 20 years later, in the early 90s, a short section of I-394 in Minneapolis used dual unit signage, both miles and kilometers, as part of an experimental project aimed at familiarizing the public with the metric system. And that effort was also part of a brief national metrication push. Like the I-19, it was never expanded. Most of the metric signage has since been removed, but some remnants linger, and you can still see those, particularly on a stretch there in I-19. So in short, these are leftovers from the last time the U.S. seriously flirted with going metric in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The signs are oddities now, but they're relics of a road not taken. Despite the widespread use of the imperial system in everyday American life, like we know, the metric system quietly exists in more places than you might expect. Science, medicine, and the military all rely heavily on metric units. Doctors measure medication in milligrams, scientists calculate distances in meters and kilometers, and military maps use metric grids. Bottled beverages are labeled in liters, and most car manufacturers list engine displacement in liters instead of cubic inches. Even track and field events measure races in meters. Yet despite these scattered adoptions, the U.S. remains resistant to fully embracing metrication. Road signs overwhelmingly show miles. Temperatures are Fahrenheit. People measure their height in feet and inches. It's as if the U.S. has one foot in the metric world but refuses to take the next step. And now we're going to go all the way back to the 1790s, when America was still figuring out how much things should weigh. In the early years of the United States, measurement was a disaster. Different states used different units. Sometimes even towns used their own standards. There were British imperial units, leftover Dutch and Spanish measurements, and local adaptations. You might buy flour by the bushel in one place and by the stone in another. And good luck figuring out how long a rod was without arguing with your neighbor. This wasn't just annoying, it made commerce harder. You couldn't trust the quantity you were buying or selling, and it stifled interstate trade. Even George Washington called for a standardized system of weights and measures in his very first address to Congress. On January 8, 1790, he said in his first annual address to Congress, quote, "Uniformity in the currency, weights, and measures of the United States is an object of great importance and will, I am persuaded, be duly attended to." End of quote. So when Thomas Jefferson became Secretary of State in 1790, he decided to fix it. Now, Jefferson was a bit of a measurement nerd. He loved scientific reasoning and Enlightenment ideals, and he believed America needed a rational, consistent, universal system, something rooted in logic, not tradition. At that same time, across the ocean, France was having its own revolution. And in the middle of all that chaos, French scientists were busy inventing a new system of measurement based entirely on the natural world, and they called it the metric system. Well, technically they called it Système métrique décimal, but you know me in French pronunciations, so we're going to say the metric system. And this all happened while the US was still sort of dragging their feet debating a standardized system of measurement. Jefferson wrote, quote, "The element of measure adopted by the National Assembly excludes ipso facto every nation on earth from a communion of measurement with them," end quote. And this new French system was elegant. A meter was 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the North Pole to the equator along the meridian. A liter was the volume of a cube 10 centimeters on each side. And a kilogram, that was the mass of 1 liter of water at the freezing point. Everything was base 10. It was simple, it was logical, and it was standardized. Easy to teach to children. Jefferson loved it. In fact, he wrote extensively to French scientists expressing interest in bringing this, pardon the pun, revolutionary system to the United States. And the French, eager to spread their rational ideas across the globe, decided to help. They commissioned the creation of a set of official metric standards, 1 kilogram and 1 meter, to be sent to the U.S. as diplomatic and scientific gifts. And to deliver these precious prototypes, they chose a man named Joseph Dombey. Joseph Dombey was a respected botanist and scientist. He'd traveled South America collecting plant specimens, worked with the French Academy of Sciences, and supported the revolutionary government in France. But in 1794, he was tasked with something different, bringing the metric system to America. He set sail for Philadelphia with an official kilogram, a copper cylinder precisely calibrated to match this new French standard. This wasn't just a gift, it was a physical reference, something American scientists could use to create their own identical copies. It was quite literally the foundation of a future metric America. Jefferson was waiting, Dombey was ready, and the United States was about to change forever. But then, something happened at sea. What happened to Dombey's ship? Why didn't the U.S. receive this kilogram? Stick around, because when we come back from the break, pirates get involved and everything goes sideways. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link.
Hey, I'm Cliff Bumgardner.
And I'm Harrison Stewart.
If you're like us, you probably grew up watching the Discovery Channel classic, Mythbusters.
From rocket cars to chicken cannons, Mythbusters proved there's no question too big, too small, or too ridiculous to put to the test.
Now we're going back to rewatch the show from episode 1, and we want you to follow along. Join us as we revisit every single myth, moment, experiment, and explosion from throughout the show's legendary 14 seasons. Subscribe now so you don't miss one.
So it's 1794, and Joseph Dombey, carrying a kilogram that could have changed American history, set sail from France to the United States, but he never made it. His ship was intercepted. Now, this wasn't the work of random criminals, it was British privateers. At the time, France and Britain were basically in a constant state of war, and privateering was a common practice. Governments issued letters of marque to private citizens, giving them legal permission to raid enemy ships, so these guys were basically pirates with paperwork. Dombey's ship was captured somewhere in the Atlantic, probably near the Caribbean. He was taken prisoner and brought to the island of Montserrat, which was a British-held island in the Caribbean, and he died in captivity, never having completed his mission. And so at that time, in 1794, the metal kilogram weight never made it to the U.S. and was lost. And that single event derailed the U.S.'s early flirtation with the metric system. Back in Philadelphia, Jefferson never received the kilogram, the French Revolution was making communication chaotic, and without a standardized reference in hand, the metric system remained just an idea. Jefferson couldn't convince Congress to act without that physical object, and as administrations changed, so did priorities. The opportunity faded. America stuck with the British imperial system even after Britain itself began transitioning to metric in the 20th century. Congress eventually legalized metric units in 1866, but adoption was never mandated. Today, the U.S. is one of only 3 countries in the world that hasn't fully embraced the metric system, along with Liberia and Myanmar, all because one man's voyage was cut short by pirates. Here's a fun twist. That very same kilogram, it turned up later. Its exact path isn't certain. It was probably confiscated by the British. That's what happened to most of the stuff seized by those privateers back then. And somehow it ended up finding its way to America around a century later. It was eventually transferred to the National Bureau of Standards, which is now the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, in Gaithersburg, Maryland. NIST currently holds the artifact and confirms it as one of the earliest metric standards intended for the U.S. But see, by the time it made it to the U.S., the imperial system had become deeply entrenched. There were too many industries, too much infrastructure, and just too many habits that had been formed around inches, feet, gallons, and pounds. That single missed connection in 1794, caused by a pirate raid, may have been our best chance to make the switch. So what if Dombey had made it? What if Jefferson received the kilogram? Would we all be measuring our height in centimeters today? Would Americans be setting their ovens to 180 degrees Celsius? Maybe your speedometer would have kilometers per hour on the outside ring instead of buried inside. It's hard to say for certain, but historians agree that early adoption would have given metric a much better shot in the U.S. The country was still young, flexible, open to new systems. If it had been standardized from the start, Americans today might not even think about metric being foreign. Instead, we have generations of students wondering why water freezes at 32 degrees, not 0. All because one copper cylinder didn't make it to its destination. The internet says it's true. It's time for Yap Yap with me and a friend. Today I'm talking with Glen Tickle. Glen is a frequent guest on the show, one of my favorite comedians. He's a comedian and co-host of the podcast Daddy-O. And he's also touring his show this year with Ricky Glore, also a comic, and his solo show, Glen Tickle Tries to Be a Person. I love that title. It's great to have you back on the show, friend.
Great to be here.
Tell me about Glen Tickle Tries to Be a Person.
Oh, sure. Hang on. There we go. I had a napkin stuck under the thing I'm balancing my laptop on. I was trying to slide so when I put the can down, it doesn't.
Oh, are we doing like
one of those
stacked on some books to make it?
Yeah, it's a toy rabbit hutch is the current move because it's angled and it's got a little. It's like a nice height.
I will say you're a little crooked after removing the napkin. But,
yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yeah, that was holding the whole thing up. Okay, Glen Tickle Tries to Be a Person.
Yeah, so it is the current hour of stand-up basically came out of around the beginning of the year. I started trying to like think of what I could do to be a better, more successful comedian. And I started making a list of stuff that it's like, all right, what are my flaws as a performer? Like where can I do some work? And then after I started listing things, it was like, a lot of these I think are just personality flaws and less about comedy specifically. So if I want to get better at my job, I think I have to be a better person first. And that's harder. And a lot of the material I've been doing has been addressing things that I see as problems.
Interesting.
I think last time I was on here, I talked about how I have double vision and I see two of everything when it's too close. And that's one of them. I'm a mess, and it's time to cross some stuff off the list. I've been going up on stage with, instead of a set list, I have just like a list of like almost affirmations. It'll be like, oh, you're good at your job. But it's also like reminders of like, make eye contact with people in the audience, ask someone about their day. Don't talk about Mr. T so much. And so I'm better at some of them than others. I've been talking about Mr. T quite a bit lately on stage, and I will not stop.
Well, there's a lot to talk about.
He's great. He's my childhood hero.
Obviously Mother's Day every year, Mr. T becomes a big part of everyone's life.
Yeah.
With Treat Your Mother Right, and then sort of goes away. It's like Groundhog Day. He like kind of pops his head up. And,
not for me. He's
no,
always there.
Every day.
He's always there.
Every day for Glenn. Well, let's get into this week's quiz. But before we do that, it's time for the segment where you come up with something that maybe I don't know. Do you have a fact or a factoid of some sort?
Yeah. I got a good one for you.
Okay.
I'm going to pose it to you in the form of a question. I got to switch over a tab here.
Love it. Switch
Are you
around.
a poetry fan?
I wouldn't say. No, I don't think I would call myself a fan. No.
All right, here's the question. Is your favorite poet Raymond Cortez?
No. The answer is no.
It's not. It's not anybody's, because that's not a real poet. This is a question that is in autism assessments for some reason.
Okay.
And it is a made-up name. He's not a poet. And it is like apparently in there to make sure that when people are filling out the assessments, they're like actually paying attention and reading the questions and not just...
It's like a control.
Yeah. There's a couple of them that they use, but that one stood out. I was taking an autism assessment this morning and came across the question, and I was like, oh, I don't know that poet's name. So before I answered, I like looked him up because like, I don't know, maybe he's the greatest poet to ever live.
Well, we're not going to skip over the fact that you gave yourself an autism test this morning. We're going to get back to
that.
In a minute.
I didn't give myself. This was administered to me. But I was really interested when I looked it up, and then I found people talking about it, how it's not a real guy, and I was like, it would be a funny joke to like put it in. It would be like a Simpsons reference, like somebody's reading a book of poetry by Raymond Cortez, and they don't explain it why.
Yeah,
that's in there.
It's a good reference.
Yeah.
I think if I'm a poet, I change my name to Raymond Cortez.
Yeah, or
it's already have a little bit of fame under my, the wheels are already moving on that guy.
Yeah, Alan Smithy, the fake director name that people use when they don't want to be associated with the
I
with the
literally
project.
just added Alan Smithy to my list of future episodes. I want to do an episode about Alan Smithy.
You should.
Yeah. Basically, if a director isn't proud of the project, they used the name Alan Smithy for a very long time until it was referenced in a film and then it sort of gave away the secret.
It's like the whole plot of the movie is
Yeah.
a real guy named Alan Smithy is trying to make a movie. Was it Eric Idle? I don't think I've ever seen it. I know the story of that movie.
Well, the sequel is clearly going to be is it Robert Curtez?
Raymond Curtez. Kertezz. So I'm guessing Curtez. I don't know how to pronounce.
I was wondering.
the Z and a C together.
I was wondering if that works as a control, like for people with autism, because to tell if they're actually reading the questions, or because if there is a lack of like social awareness or whatever, and like they're afraid of not knowing who this person is, like maybe I should know who this person is, so I'm going to say yes.
Maybe,
like maybe it could be one of those things.
Or
where,
like the Adam Sandler sketch of they convince the guy that he's drunk and stoned. It's like, nah, that was, that's not alcoholic beer, man. You're not drunk. You're just being a pain. It's like, that's not your favorite poet. I made that name up.
I made that up. Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Just to trick you.
Interesting.
It feels devious to do to potentially autistic people to be like, hey, we're going to lie to you about a poet.
So it also, by the way, that is a correct answer because I had never heard that. But it reminds me a little bit of when I have in the past rented mailing lists. Did you ever know that you could rent a mailing list?
I know it's a thing I could do. I've never done it. I don't like emailing people I know on purpose. I'm not going to do it to a bunch of strangers.
This was for traditional mail, for snail mail, like U.S. mail. Okay.
Yeah.
And what they would do is seed it they called it seeding with a fake address, but that address went to the office of the place where you rented the list from.
Okay.
And that's the difference between buying the list and renting the list, is that you only were allowed to send one piece of mail per rental. So they would know if you were duplicating if you were overusing what you paid for, because they would pay attention to what they got from different people.
It's like a paper town on a map.
It kind of is. Yeah. It's like, it's a made up company that they would add, and make it sound like whatever list you were buying, but then the address would just be the company you bought it from. So, well, let's get into
companies.
I'm sorry. Say it again.
I was just saying that they're sneaky companies.
They are. I mean, they got to find some way to, that's their theft prevention method. So we'll get into this week's deal here. And for the first one, we always play for a joke. If you get it wrong, you got to tell me a joke. If you get it right, I will tell you one. So 1794, we're going back to 18th century America. America was set to adopt the metric system from the French and was in the process of receiving a metal kilogram weight to set the standard. Which one of these things happened to interfere with that plan? A, pirates raided the ship on its way to the U.S. B, people who favored the imperial system had more money and therefore more power. Or C, Thomas Jefferson hated the metric system.
I hate that I don't immediately know this, for as much as I love the metric system.
Yeah.
And for years on social media, it would do a bit bugging Joe Biden to do the metric system.
That's great.
But that, I know more about the more recent attempt to get it, but 18th century.
Yeah, this was the first attempt.
I mean, I feel like it's probably the second one about people having more money and more say, but I know that was basically the reason for the most recent one. I want it to be pirates, because that's always a fun answer. I don't remember the third one, but
Thomas Jefferson hated the metric
Thomas
system.
Jefferson hated
that's the third one.
I don't think he does. I don't think he's not a perfect man by any means, but I think the metric system was in his heart. He doesn't seem like he would be pushing for, miles. It's an insane metric. No American knows how many feet are in a mile.
No, it's 2,000.
I think about this all the time. I think about it all the time.
5,000?
And I
don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Man, it's just, it would be so easy if we just did it,
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't want to learn the metric system because they want to learn a new system. You already know it. It's just the number 10. You're done. I'm stalling because I don't know the answer. I'm going to say pirates, but I feel like it's not going to be pirates.
The answer is pirates.
Nice.
Isn't that the best story ever? This is I literally just came across this the other day and I was like, this is an episode. This guy, Joseph Dombey, was sent by France to deliver the official kilogram. You know, like the little brass weights. It was copper,
Oh,
but whatever.
Yeah.
So that was going to be the standard. He also had a meter standard stick, right? And then there was a British privateer ship that intercepted it, took him hostage. He ended up dying in captivity. It never arrived. They never got it. And that probably, so this Jefferson, this was the same year, the whole project started 1790. Washington, in his address to Congress, this was a thing that they were going to do. And Jefferson loved the metric system.
He should. It's
was
great.
all about the metric system. Remember, he was in France and he was a big Francophile. And, I don't know if they had the metric system when he was there. I'm not sure what year Jefferson went to France. Maybe my listeners know. But in any case, it never got there. They could not switch to metric. And this was probably our best shot. So
I think about it every day, how much better things would be.
Well, maybe you can lean. This seems like something that Trump would do. I feel like it just seems like he's looking to make a name for himself every day. So this
I
seems
genuinely
like
thought, like it was a bit, but I genuinely thought Biden would have done it.
Yeah.
I also thought we were getting high-speed rail. That didn't happen.
Right.
It does seem like I'm genuinely holding out hope that we get the metric system and they kill daylight savings.
Yeah. I
Both
feel like
examples of
daylight savings
just
will happen
like
first.
a thing that he would just do as an executive order. And it's like, I don't expect much out of this administration, but if I can get
like
the metric system and not having to change my clock in my car twice a year, oh man.
Here's why I think he would do it. A, it would be something that he would always be known for.
Yeah.
It would be a legacy move. And B, it would be incredibly expensive. And so because of those two reasons, I feel like Trump would do them. It would cost us
metric
so much
system
money.
more so.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean,
everything
worth
would have
it.
to change. Well,
Worth
okay.
it.
So I owe you a joke. The joke is stupid, but it's why won't Americans switch to the metric system?
Why not?
They have a foot fetish.
The one I had prepared was pirate related.
Can I hear that?
Yeah. Why did how did the pirate get his ship so cheap?
How?
It was on sale.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's super, super weird that you you found a pirate joke for this episode. What a strange coincidence.
Yeah.
For the second question, we're going to play for an authentic British pirate ship.
Okay.
Full size, if one of us can afford it. Here is the question. What was the official name of the original metric unit prototype for the kilogram? Okay, so the French had one of these names. This was true. Was it A, Kilogramme International, B, Le Grand K, or C, Le Metre Standard? Or Le Meter Standard, if you're... I suck at French pronunciations, but...
I took it for 4 years in high school, and I'm worse.
Kilogramme International, Le Grand K, or Le Meter Standard?
I want it to be Le Grand K, because that's, like, from a branding standpoint, right? That is great. But we only use K to refer to things being 1,000 because of the metric system. So I don't think they would have started with that as a brand. I also don't think they were thinking of it as a brand. I think it's that though. I'm gonna go Grand K.
The answer, Le Grand K.
Nice.
You're 2 for
Good
2.
on you.
Le Grand K was the nickname for the original international prototype of the kilogram, a platinum iridium cylinder stored in France. Le Grand K. Also the name of a grandma rapper somewhere, I think.
Was you mentioned the one that got by pirates was copper? Is that were you assuming?
It's copper. I think it's the same. I don't know. Platinum iridium. So
platinum iridium, I know why they use that. It's because it doesn't erode and it won't change significantly over time.
I saw this thing referred to as both, like interchangeably. So I don't know if they don't know what it was or what.
I mean, the pirates probably didn't tell you. They probably just melted it down.
Well, and I also found that there were different accounts as to whether or not they ever found it. Because
that would be a good Legends of the Hidden Temple episode.
Yeah.
For me specifically.
The first account I said it was lost to history. But then I kept digging and I found that they did recover it. It was the British had it, obviously, because it was British privateers, and it made its way to the U.S. and is in a museum in the U.S. now. And they think it's the actual one. So,
you want to plan a heist? You want to
yeah,
get that? You want to get that kilogram?
Yeah, it belongs in a museum. Where?
Yeah, I don't care that it belongs in a different museum.
A different museum, not the Museum of Weights and Standards in Maryland. Okay, so for the third question, we're going to play for a sticker. It's 3 inches, it's square, and it's sticky. Oh, and by the way, you got that right. So I will be sending you an authentic British pirate ship.
I can't wait.
Expect it.
To explain that to my wife when it arrives.
Just keep it in the backyard. Where is the international kilogram standard currently kept? So we're not talking about the actual physical weight from the 17 whatever.
Yeah.
But like the standard, the international prototype kilogram, which is probably the one known as Le Grand K.
Oh, it's not. I was waiting for multiple choice.
It is multiple choice. I just, for some reason, I just got lost.
I know where I think it is, but there's like two places. I hope you don't say both of them.
I'm going to say them all. I'm going to say all the places that I'm good. Okay, so it's either Washington D.C., London, or Paris.
That's not, and none of those were what I was
really?
thinking. But you didn't say there were two.
It's not in Maryland where the one from the ship is, supposedly.
I know. Can you just hit me with the first part of the question again? I don't need the answers.
Yeah. Where is the international kilogram standard currently kept? This is the international prototype kilogram.
I'm going to have to say Paris.
The answer is Paris. The international prototype kilogram is stored at the International Bureau of Weights and Measures in Sèvres. I see this is another French pronunciation. Sevres. Sèvres, just outside Paris. So, yeah. Dude, you're 3 for 3.
Heck yeah. I always miss one. I don't think I've ever
I feel like the next one's hard. Now, it won't be hard for the listeners because this if you're listening to this whole episode, you may have caught this answer. This one is in the episode already. But here's your question, and we're going to play for doing the dishes. You have to do a metric shit ton of dishes.
I think you made me do this last time too.
Yeah. Which country is not officially metric today? Okay. A, Canada. B, Myanmar. C, Sweden. One of these does not use the metric system.
I know Canada has a weird mix, like culturally. I don't know if it's official. Like if you ask a Canadian person, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? You're getting that in feet and inches and pounds.
We're talking about official, like street signs and stuff.
Yeah. The street signs are in kilometers. I'll double check. I'm going up there next month, so I'll double check, but I know the speed signs and stuff are kilometers per hour. So I'm going to say they're official. What's the third one? It's Myanmar and where?
Myanmar and Sweden.
I don't think it's got to be Myanmar.
The answer is Myanmar. Myanmar is one of only 3 countries that haven't fully adopted the metric system. The others
is Liberia the other one?
You got it, dude. Liberia and U.S.
I think about the metric system so much.
That one should have been the one I chose instead of Myanmar. I should have done Liberia. But yeah, the U.S. is just with Liberia and Myanmar as the 3 countries that don't use it. It's stupid.
It drives me crazy. I mean, I live in New Jersey, the last state that won't let you pump your own gas. It was us in Oregon for a long time, and then those cowards gave it up. But
cowards.
it's a great system, honestly. It's so good. Creates jobs. You don't have to get out of your car. Your hand doesn't smell like gasoline.
Yeah. And you get a little bit of a break on gas price too. Just a little bit. There's a little bit in there.
Because the insurance to let literally anyone operate a machine that sprays a lot of flammable liquid very quickly is unsurprisingly pretty high.
As a non-New Jerseyan, it is intimidating for some reason to drive into New Jersey. I don't know why it is. I think last time I was there, I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to tip this guy.
You can.
And if you do tip them, that makes up the difference for whatever you just saved in that liability insurance that they're not paying,
Yeah.
you know?
It is, I feel like less common now. When I started driving, pretty common, but also everybody was just paying for gas with cash all the time.
Yeah.
And as we've gotten away from that being the standard, it's like I usually just don't have cash on me.
Yeah,
I try to like in the winter. Usually my rule for like if I will tip the gas attendant is like, would I want to get out of my car and do this right now?
Yeah.
Because I know how to do it. I drive all over the country and Canada.
Yeah.
I can get the gas in there. I just don't like having to be the one to do it.
Sure. It's interesting to hear. As someone who grew up, in any state other than New Jersey, like it's weird to think of someone else doing it. That's a really strange thing about how you're used to doing what you're used to doing. And anyway, well, what shows do you have coming up? We got one more question on here, but what do you have coming up lately?
This weekend, I don't know when this goes up, but this weekend I'm coming your way. I'm going to be in Minerva, Ohio tomorrow.
Minerva. One of my good friends is from Minerva.
16th tomorrow, right? Friday the 16th. With
tomorrow, yeah.
My pal Ricky Glore, and then Saturday we're at McKees Rock, Pennsylvania.
Been there.
And Sunday back closer to me at the Emmaus Theater in Emmaus, Pennsylvania.
Love it.
Where I was last time I did the show, and we were talking about I was going to be opening for Murray Sawchuk at the Emmaus Theater. That
How'd
has
that go?
Since happened. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
I got to tell a little 7-year-old about Mr. T a lot during my set, which everyone thought was very funny because obviously no 7-year-old's going to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We all had a great time. He didn't. He seemed confused, but everybody had a great time laughing at the 7-year-old for not knowing an 80s celebrity.
I wonder if we can get Mr. T to endorse the metric system.
Ooh, it's tough to get him to do things now. I've heard
He's pretty old, right?
72.
72.
No.
Oh, okay, younger than I thought.
Or 73. I think his birthday is this month, but I don't remember exactly when. I want to say May 12th, but I could be wrong.
Are you sure it's not April 1st? Because then he could pity the.
Oh, it should be.
Sorry, I was working on it in my head for the last half a minute. So
you got there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because you're gonna weigh gold chains in kilograms for sure.
That's right.
I think you would get behind it.
Yeah, they're done on a base 10. All right, so our final question. This one's for all the marbles. If you get this one wrong, it's as if you got none of them right. If you get it right, you're going to be back on sometime. What is a modern invention or a system that you think future generations will laugh at us for still using? So when they look back and they say 2025, why were they still blah, blah, blah?
I want to say the imperial system of measurement.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like your whole episode is kind of about that already.
Sure.
Analog clocks, with the hands, or maybe not ever, but we could get rid of those. I could only because we have a better system now. Cursive handwriting. That's what it is.
Oh, cursive handwriting is the winner.
Cursive handwriting.
I don't know
because
if you realize this.
Analog clocks had a time, but that time is gone.
I love it. I don't know if you realize this, Glenn, but you are the first person in more than 2 years to get every question.
Congratulations!
Right.
It's the first time I've ever done it. I don't remember off the top of my head how many times I've done this show, but I always get one wrong, and it always drives me crazy.
Well, now you can sleep well tonight, my friend, because you are the first person to do that in a very long time. Hundreds of episodes.
I'm genuinely thrilled. I mean, you did happen to make it an episode about a thing I do think about more than most people. I didn't know that.
I did not know that when I asked you to do this. It was super last minute.
I'm
cramming this episode in before I go to Pittsburgh for the next week. So, dude, so good to talk to you again, man. Thank you so much for coming back on.
It's always great.
Go
especially
check out
when I get
Glenn.
them all right.
Yeah, dude. I need to put up a wall of fame for this, like they do at wing joints when you eat like the hottest wings.
This really made my night that I finally got them all.
I love it, man. What's your website? GlenTickle.com?
GlenTickle.com.
It's GLEN 1N Tickle, like tickle. .com. You can see where Glenn is performing. You can check him out in Minerva, McKees Rocks, the Amaze Theater, all of these places. You can see Glenn do his comedy, or just check him out online. Lots of good stuff on there, man. It's so good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, friend.
That's it for this week. Thank you so much to Glen Tickle for being my guest, and thanks to you for listening. Here's the voice of a kid who wants to be a pirate when he grows up.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it! See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official Emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.